Welcome to A Girl, a Guy, and a Buffy podcast, Small Bites Edition. I'm your co-host, Kate Balzer.
And I'm Charles Swint. So our small bites episodes are discussions we had in the main episode that didn't quite fit the overall conversation, but we still wanted to share with you all.
We hope you enjoy these tasty conversational bites. We promise. No angry puppy scars from listening.
Hello, and welcome back.
Yeah, hey, how's everyone?
I mean, I'm doing great. I don't know how everyone else is doing. I would love to know. I wish we could hear other people's responses. Our friends in England, how are you? Let's
Yeah.
ask them. We've got some friends in England. I think we've got some friends in Canada too, I think, maybe.
I think
Uh,
Australia.
Australia too. Hi, y'all. How are you doing? Let us know. We would love to know. We hope you're enjoying all of this, this zaniness that is.
Yes.
So, uh, the counterpoint to Buffy and Giles is clearly
Faith
the
in the
mayor.
mayor.
Yeah, the mayor and Faith. Um, so it's an interesting, I don't know, it's an interesting dichotomy. I mean, there is something that is in I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. So I'm just gonna put it out there and like let it cook for a minute and see what happens. I don't know what's going on. But so, we get such a short amount of time with them, really.
Yes.
Which again is such a testament to the storytelling of this show and like these actors and like the memories that they create because it feels like it was so much longer than that. It's
Yeah.
literally like the last four episodes of
Yeah,
season
yeah.
three that this relationship develops, and we're like so invested in it, and we're like, oh my gosh, she's found this father figure. Oh my gosh, he does so much for her in such a short amount of time.
Hmm.
Again, more than the Scoobies did, more than anybody else did in all the months that she had been,
Hmm.
quote unquote, on the side of good. And like literally 3 days, he's like, hey, let me get you an apartment. I understand you. I see you as a wild child. I respect that. Here we are. Here's a pretty dress, even though that dress is terrible on her.
So terrible.
So it's not her at all. It doesn't, but
No.
he's trying, and
Yeah.
so there's so much that he does to ingratiate himself into her life and into her world when she comes to him after basically killing off all of his right hand people, and just says, "Hey, so I guess there's an opening." And I think she sort of sees the glimmer of like, "Huh, yeah, the mayor." We find out that the mayor's not a good guy, and she's like, "Yeah, I get that." And we start to see where that goes into it, but then here she is, and now now they're building this bond. And I guess my question is, in all of this, is like, how genuine was that bond, or how much of all of that is sort of manipulation in order to like hold on to an asset?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's both. I think he does genuinely care for her in his own way, but he's so demonic in his thinking, like so not human in his thinking.
Hmm.
And I think also he's just, so centered on his evil plan that he'll use whatever tools he needs to get there. And he sees her as a tool that it's not really genuine. Like it's genuine in his own mind, but not in a normal, healthy situation,
Hmm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think when I look back at the mayor, I think there is a sense of like civility and
Yeah.
properness that he tries to maintain this facade,
Hmm.
behind like, oh, I read Family Circus, which is the most wholesome comic you could ever read. Like
Hmm.
it's all of this like pretense of
Yeah.
look at me, I'm wholesome. And then at the same time, though, when when Buffy puts Faith in the hospital, he loses it completely, and he
Right.
like there's a genuine like emotional pain there that he goes through and attacks Angel and get like that whole moment happens, and he says he's grieving in that moment. So I think that there's some real pain there. But I do think some of it does feel calculated, but that doesn't mean that that might be manipulating her in some instances, but I think there are some real feelings um, that are connected, at least from his point of view.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think he legitimately cares about her and is showing that in the way he takes care of her and the way he grieves when she's in the coma and they think she's gonna die. And like you said, he attacks Angel. But I don't think, but because he's like so messed up and he's so power
Mhm.
hungry that it's not like what a normal person
Right.
would, because there's always an underlying evilness
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
and to what he's doing. So even when he's like being genuine, and I legitimately, he believes that, whether it's, I don't think he can feel like a normal person would.
Hmm.
So that makes it not real, but in his mind, it's like legitimate. And I think it is. And, he really feels he cares for her, but his actions show that he doesn't understand what that really means
Mm. Mm.
because he still makes her go out and kill.
Right.
I mean,
But killing is their love language. What are you talking about? Like,
okay. He's very manipulative. It makes it seem sweet that he's like giving her a place and he's giving her clothing and giving her like this cool apartment for a teenager to live in, with the snacks and the video game console, but it's very much elements of like grooming and pedophilia.
yeah.
Not that he sees her in a sexual way, but it's
He
still
ma-
manip
yeah, and he makes it very clear because
yeah,
she kind of like makes a pass like she sort of like
because that's what she
insinuates
thinks.
right, and he's
Th-
like, this is not that, this is not that at all. I
But
mean,
just
and
because,
it, yeah.
well, I was just gonna say, but just because he isn't seeing it as sexual doesn't make it manipulation and grooming and
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. It's still all of that. For
yeah.
sure, without the sexual connotation behind it. It's a
Right. It's like,
murderous
yeah,
connotation.
it's the dark side of what that, and having a teen and an older person having a relationship, especially in
Hmm.
this case, I was gonna say, especially in this case, the opposite sex, which is true. But I mean, I think either same sex or opposite sex, you can be just as equally manipulative.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely sort of like the dark reflection of Buffy and Giles's relationship and what
Yeah.
that looks
Yeah.
like and what that could be.
Well, and also that Faith is had such a rough life
Hmm.
that even like a crappy version of someone taking care of her,
It's
she's
still
like desperate for it. Yeah, it's better than what she's had.
it's still better than anything else that she's had. Like that relationship was probably the best relationship that she ever had, even though it wasn't a great relationship,
Yeah.
which is why the first is able to come back and utilize that to try to manipulate her later on in season 7.
Hmm.
Um, because it was, and and I think she does feel seen for who she thinks she is
Yes,
at
yes,
the
yes, yes.
time. And I think that's where the exploitation comes in, is because she is lost and she is broken
Hmm.
after committing the murder and doing all of that. Like she's struggling and Buffy is trying to like throw her a lifeline and she's like, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't like it's too like because facing what she's done is too much for her,
Right,
obviously. And
right.
so why not just like cut that off emotionally and just reconcile that, well then maybe that's just who I am. Maybe I'm just a killer and kind of actually letting go of that feels better than actually facing sort of the moralities of it all.
Yeah.
So let me just do that.
Hmm.
Um, So I think that there is something, you know, there's something interesting to that, and it leaves her vulnerable to
Hmm.
the manipulation of the mayor and to allow her to be groomed into his weapon.
Right. And then even the gift he leaves for her that if she were to wake up from her coma, which she does in season 4,
Hmm.
is still nothing that's good for her. Like he makes it seem
Right,
like he's leaving her a gift, taking care of her, but how is that in any way good for her? It's not.
right. It's one less act of vengeance. It's one
Correct.
less act of, and it's a desperate act too,
Yeah.
because what is that? What are you thinking will come from that?
I guess maybe they'll trust quote unquote Buffy and Faith will enact her killer instincts and like go after her friends. I'm sure
May
that's what he was thinking.
Yeah, it's that
So,
la so that she can finally finish what they started,
right,
and at least
exactly.
killing it. And that if we can't end the world, we can at least end these people,
Right,
you know.
right. And
Um,
then well, it depends on whether they know or not. I mean, she could also frame it if she was able to do that. I mean, this would be like a way darker show. If she was able to frame herself, because Buffy's in her body,
oh
for the,
yeah,
like for the killings, and she could get away scot-free as Faith as Buffy. She
right,
could live this whole other life and she could be the quote unquote good slayer. Um,
right.
you know,
That would have been a very different show.
yeah,
Had they had that have been like a thing that the Switch was permanent.
I know, right?
What a wild concept to be like, oh,
Yeah, let's
um,
see if Buffy was like made nowadays, I could see that being done.
oh, or if it were like that feels very soap opera either, like where that Switch is permanent.
Well, I was thinking of something like more dark and, Breaking Bad-ish rather than like
Yeah,
soapy. I'm like, or what other dark shows are out there? That's more what I was thinking.
yeah. I mean, it's yeah. The whole thing about this her loyalty to the mayor. Again, like it all happened so fast, and again, it's one of those things that I really had to like wrap my head around because it just shows how vulnerable Faith is, right?
Yes,
Because
yes, yes.
how quickly it all falls into place and how
Hmm.
quickly like she's like, yeah, I'm with you, because he's like, yeah, I see you, I understand, and oh, here's your little gift of a knife, and here's all of this. Like yeah, it is very groomy, it is very
And
manipulative.
it shows how isolated the rest of the gang made her
Hmm.
by not stepping up for her the whole season. Like no adult steps in, the Watchers Council never steps in. Buffy tries her best to some degree, but she herself is struggling with her own issues. And then of course when she comes back from having run away for the summer, she's confronted by like cool Faith and all her friends like her, and you know,
Yeah,
so I never expected Buffy to have to be the one responsible for like stepping up for Faith,
sure.
other than as a friend, but
And
all the adults fail Faith so deeply.
yeah, and even like, and sometimes, and again, I think there's like missing pieces
Yeah,
in the storyline, because especially with Faith's stuff, because I
yeah.
feel like it was so disjointed a little bit. That Willow was like, oh well, because there's that scene where Willow's trapped in the mayor's office and she's trying to get the Books of Ascension, and Faith runs into her and she's like, oh, a smart person would have ran. And they get into this confrontation where Willow
Hmm.
like stands up, and she was like, Buffy tried to be your friend, we all did. And I kind of think that that's a little hooey. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know how hard did they really try to be her friend, because
Hmm.
there was so much stuff that, like, again, Cordelia wasn't necessarily like a part of the Scoobies during this time, but like when Faith first shows up, there is like a, ooh, she's fun and shiny and new, and we want to like get to know you. But again, it's this idolization, it's this sort of like fetishization of the Slayer. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
let's talk about like all your Slayer things, and not talking about like who you are or trying to get to know you as a person. There's no engagement into who Faith is,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, we don't even get a last name for Faith
Yeah, exactly.
until, you know, the comic books or whatever. Like it's just it's interesting to me like how it is portrayed on screen that like we really tried to be your friend as much as possible. And I think, I mean, Buffy does. I mean, she invites her to here's the catch. She invites her to Christmas at their house, but she doesn't think about it until Joyce says something.
Right.
So it's not like Faith is top of mind for everybody to be like, hey, let's hang out and do stuff. And that could be because Faith is like not giving off the vibe that she wants to.
Right.
But still, if you're trying to be someone's friend, if you're actively trying to be someone's friend, then you go out of your way to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I don't necessarily agree to the fact that the Scoobies tried to be friends with Faith.
Yeah. Well, and also the Scoobies are super cliquish.
Yeah.
I don't know that they mean to be, but based on what they've gone through, they're very tight knit. And obviously we've talked about this. The only new people that come into their gang are when they're dating an OG Scooby.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like they're expanding their group and adding new friends that are not romantically linked to a main Scooby. So, yeah, I mean, you can understand why Faith felt the way she did or didn't try to get in because that's a hard group to break into.
Right. And when you look at like what Faith came from and like her lack of friends, and she says,
Yeah.
hey, you know, if I had friends like you, might not, I mean, I probably still would have left school, but I would have been sad about it.
Yeah.
Like, so there was like a moment where she was like, well, maybe this could be, but ultimately, I think Faith reading people, like, they're very much interested in her as a slayer. At least from me, like, that's what it looks like, is that they're more interested in her as a slayer than as a person, which is
Yeah.
not how they treat Buffy.
Right.
They're like, hey, we want to help you and we want to like spend time with you and get to know you because you're doing this cool thing. I don't know. It's a weird dichotomy. And so then you get to see Faith experiencing all of the privilege that Buffy has,
Mhm.
versus what she's been going through. And so that, yeah, it's weird that no one steps in for her. No one steps up for Faith
Yeah.
except the mayor. And this is why we get this like
Yeah.
rush job father-daughter relationship. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is too the fact that Giles never had a conversation with Buffy about, hey, when you're fighting and you get caught up in the moment, things can happen. Like, I don't expect you to accidentally hurt a person, but it may happen. And I need you to come to me right away. It's not your
Hmm.
fault.
Yeah.
And so if there had been like that sort of conversation beforehand, Buffy might have been able to handle that moment better with
Mm.
Faith when it did happen, even if
Right.
Faith hadn't had that conversation with her watcher. Because she could have been like, no, don't worry, this happens. Giles told me, like, we'll go talk to him, he'll handle this. Um,
There are protocols in place to
right,
protect us.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
it's that conversation. Right. And because she's completely shocked that it's happened before.
Yes,
When he was like, well, this has happened before.
right.
And she's completely thrown off guard by it. And it changes the whole thing. And we have said this before. Watchers not, and they say it in the show, watchers are really not big on communicating the information. They are gatekeepers of information,
Yeah.
even to their detriment. Like, and so yeah, it's a, it's a missed opportunity to save her
Hmm.
and to protect Buffy too, and to like keep
Yeah,
her from going through all of that.
right.
Um,
That unnecessary. I mean, they would experience pain because it is a tragedy, but I think the extra guilt and, um, you know,
Although, here's the thing. I'm curious why Giles didn't at that point tell Faith what he told Buffy. To be like, oh, okay, well, thanks for telling me, Faith. Okay, so just so you know, here's what's going to happen. because that would have been a great way to like let her know
Hmm.
if you knew she was lying. That would have been a great way to let her know here's the process and procedures that are in place for this. This is what's going to happen. And so what we will do is that if this happened since Buffy did this, this is how we're going to protect her. And we would do that for anyone, Faith.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah. I
know,
totally see what you're saying.
it's a good opportunity to like give her the out and mediate that situation to be like, you're lying because you're scared, because you don't know what's going to happen and the walls are closing in. But let's open up the pathway a little bit for you. Let's tell you what's going to happen so that you don't feel cornered in or boxed in.
Yeah,
But, that's all hindsight 2020, and it's not nearly as a compelling show. If
right.
if we resolve the issues.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Stop trying to put logic on this,
I
Charles.
know. Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, you just can't. I mean, it's easy to be mad or hate Faith, but at the same time, when you really think about it, it's so much sympathy for her character. I
Hmm.
mean, she just talk about short end of the stick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, for 4 episodes, very compelling relationship, two compelling characters played by very two, really strong actors that played off each other so well. I mean, when Buffy holds up the knife that she stabbed Faith with, even though he's in full-on demon form, you
Hmm.
can feel his sense of pain
Hmm.
at what Buffy's taunting him with.
Sorry. I need to make a correction here. Live. It is 7 episodes
Oh,
from when
7.
it's 7 episodes from when Faith switches. Because she goes to the mayor at the end of Consequences, which is
Hmm.
episode 15.
Okay.
And
But I would
so
I still think it's fair to say because I think in those first couple episodes, Faith is much more like, "Hey, boss," like he's her mob boss, and she's, I feel like that relationship doesn't develop until some of those later episodes.
well, I mean I think she gets the apartment in like in Doppelgangland.
Okay.
And then so it is a little bit of a slower build than I thought,
Yeah.
but it's so like sparsed out
Right.
because she is still because she's playing sort of spy to the Scoobies because
Right.
she's trying to like regain the trust of the Scoobies after everything and going through like all the training and all that. But I think like a lot of that, I mean, we get enemies after that, which is when she tries to seduce
Angel.
Angel.
Hmm. And then that's
Um,
when they know she's working for the
that's
mayor.
right. So that's only like 3 episodes in that series. Well, 2 episodes basically, and then we go into Earshot, which is kind of a standalone-ish.
Yeah. That has
Uh,
nothing.
that
She
has
doesn't make an appearance.
yeah, and then we go back to Choices, which is when Willow decides to
Right.
stay and all of that happens, and then we get the prom,
So nothing there. And then
and then
and then the final
graduation,
2 episode.
and then graduation 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You know,
it's over the course of 7 episodes, it is sort of truncated
what is that, like 5?
into like maybe 5.
I never thought of this before. You were just saying because Earshot's one of those episodes. Why the heck didn't Buffy use her newfound skill to like go over to, sneak up on Faith and listen to
Something.
the plans or listen to the mayor's
I know. Missed opportunity.
plan? Exactly.
They were like, we don't have time for this right now.
I know. For all I get mad at Giles, he and Buffy definitely have a much healthier relationship.
This is true. Yeah. It's not a weird, sick, twisted one.
No, it is not.
Um,
I'm not thinking that he should not be a part of Buffy's life the way the mayor should definitely not be a part of Faith's life.
right. Face like increases so much more when he is out of her life. And
Yes.
quite frankly, ironically enough, Faith's life gets way better when Angel enters her life.
I was just gonna say that.
Angel is way better for Faith than he is for Buffy.
100%. Actually, I think what that says is Angel is better for a woman when he's not romantically involved with her.
It's true. Yeah.
Because I feel like he's better for Fred, even though Fred has a crush on him in the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like he's better for Fred when they're not romantically involved. So we've just solved the issue of Angel. Angel needs to be celibate.
Well, he has to be.
Well, no, not necessarily. He just can't be with Buffy.
Oh, yeah, because he can't.
Remember, he
I
sleeps with
guess he could.
Darla. He
Oh,
sleeps
yeah.
with oh God, the werewolf chick,
Oh, yeah,
Nina.
Nina. Yeah, he's not in love with Nina. Not like true love.
Yeah,
He's just like, yeah, she's cool. She's fun.
yeah.
Anyway. So off topic.
Off topic. Okay.
So off topic. Anyway, so let us know what your thoughts are on Faith and the mayor and their relationship. Love to hear about it. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Bites. Let us know your thoughts about the episode by leaving a review or rating us wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Buffy Podcast and email us at abuffypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.